That's where we all stand. So, all that being said, we all went to go see Avengers on Thursday night at an 11 o'clock showing. And if it wasn't for the kids talking in front of me, maybe I would have had a better experience. But, yeah, so before we get into spoilers, which we will get into, I just want to go around and we'll say kind of our overall rating on a scale of 1 to 10, how we'd rate this film.
I still don't know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I don't either.
And I'll compare it to the first Avengers film. The first Avengers film, I'd give a solid like 9 out of 10. That was incredibly fun. Hit all the right marks, great pacing, everything. Really enjoyed that film.
Look at my nose.
The second Avengers film, I want to say more like a 7.5. Which, you know, I think it was good, but not great to me. I think it took a step back from the first film. So that's my quick review going around the room here.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too. Like for the first Avengers, I would say probably a solid like 8 or 9. It was just a really good movie. Like, and it was kind of right at the cusp of all this superhero movies. You know, you still weren't really sure, is this going to be a really good movie? And you know, maybe Avengers 2 would be the same way if you weren't used to these superhero movies being actually pretty good. So you're expecting more, I guess. But I would say Avengers was like a good 8 or 9. I wasn't as big of a fan of this one. Like James said, it might have had something to do with the environment that we were in, because there was people talking right in front of us, and that just annoys the crap out of me when I go to see any movie. But so that might have taken me out of it a little bit. But I would probably give this like a 6.5, maybe 7. Right now, like I said, like at the very start of this video, I probably kind of want to go see it again, just maybe like in a couple weeks, even maybe by myself in an empty theater, just to kind of maybe get a fresh eye on it. But there are some things that happened that I just was not a huge fan of, or just was kind of shaking my head at. So, but we'll get into that.
I don't know what to say about Age of Ultron, but maybe I'll parse it out in my brain as I talk about the original. Yeah, I like the original. It's just fine. Looking back at it, it's probably not as strong a film as I remember it being back when I first saw it. But it's still, you know, it's a comic book movie. I mean, it's exactly what you thought it would be. So, that one, what would I give it? Maybe an 8? Yeah, an 8. Yeah, let's go with that. Age of Ultron. This is a weird movie. The pacing was just bizarre, is what I found in it. But that's probably because I read this online. There is an hour of footage cut from this movie.
Wow.
This thing was originally 3.5 hours long. Mm-hmm. And you can tell when watching it, there is a lot cut from this movie. That's not to say it's bad. I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. But I have a feeling when they release the director's cut, that's the movie I'll really love. You know, because that'll have all the stuff that I kind of thought they were leading towards and stuff. And so, but I mean, we'll get into specifics a few minutes, but if I were to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, why don't I go with 7?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I guess we're all kind of in the same camp as far as both movies go, which is surprising, because I think we're at odds with a lot of people out there.
People are loving this movie.
Yeah, they are,
yeah.
So we're kind of at odds with that. But let me go, I want to go through the positives first. I have a list of positives and negatives for this film, and so I'm just going to kind of go through them. Positives, the character of Ultron I really enjoyed.
I think James Spader was fantastic.
He was fantastic.
He was an inspired choice, let's put it that way.
Now, for comparing films, I think Tom Hiddleston as Loki is like your premier. I mean, no one enjoys that role of villain quite like he enjoys the role of villain as Loki. Like
He was supposed to be in this movie, but they cut him. To
Yeah.
Loki.
yeah, and actually I think that's kind of wise.
Yeah.
You don't want him overshadowing Ultron at all. But I think Loki's probably more memorable overall than Ultron, but still great. Yeah, and yeah, I really enjoyed what they did with him. And then also the little things I liked about this film. There's a running gag throughout this film. There's a couple of running gags throughout this film. One of them being with Thor's hammer, where they're all sitting around trying to.
That was the best scene in the movie.
Trying to lift his hammer, and they're all going around trying to do it and all this stuff. And then they get to Captain America. And Thor's just laying back. He's just like, yeah, no one can do it. And Captain America, and he's like, and he tries to lift on it, and it wiggles a little bit.
Jiggles.
I love that.
And the look of horror on Thor's face when he sees that is amazing. But then relief when he realizes, okay, no, he can't actually lift
You don't know how much I wanted in the climax for him to pick up Mjolnir and Captain America to have the power of Thor at the end. Because that would have been awesome.
Yeah, so I loved that scene. It was probably one of my favorites in the movie because again, it's very geek culture. I think that's one thing that Joss Whedon does very well is emulate the geek culture in his films because a lot of people talk about Thor's hammer and who can lift it and who can't and all that stuff. A lot of discussion online.
That scene also set up Quicksilver trying to catch the hammer.
Yes, which didn't go well.
He didn't know.
No. So I liked all those things. I liked the gimmick with Captain America and bad language kind of thing, and then they just keep making fun of him about him ragging on them for swearing. I don't know. I found that amusing. And then at the very beginning of this film, you have, and again, it's the little things that I like. And this is just a quick little scene, but it sticks with me, where Iron Man, he clears out this room at the beginning. He clears out all these bad guys. He knocks them down, and they're all in pain. And he goes, "Good conversation, fellas." And then one of the guys is on the ground. He's like, "No, it wasn't." And I thought that was great. I don't know. I just love it.
Yeah, because that set up with "Oh no, guys, let's talk," and then they open fire and
yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was fun. Vision was awesome. If you're a fan of the comics, I mean, looks-wise, he is almost 100% spot on. Paul Beatty, being the Vision, did a fantastic job. I enjoyed that character for how little he was on screen. When he was on screen, he commanded the screen. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited that because they didn't overuse him. So I'm excited to see where they go with him in the future films. So it gives me something to look forward to.
Well, and he picks up the hammer.
He does.
Mjolnir.
Yeah.
But I think
it's just like because it's a funny scene. I mean, they're all getting ready to like go protect whatever. Yeah, I don't even know what they were doing, but they're just like, all right, let's go. And he picks up the hammer and hands it to Thor. All right, let's get out of here. And everybody's just like,
And the theater, you can hear a pin drop. Like everyone, like the air got sucked out of the room.
Yeah. And yeah, that whole thing at the end with, well, if you put that hammer in an elevator and it can lift it, I mean, so
is the elevator worthy?
Yeah, exactly.
The entire thing with the hammer is just brilliant.
Yeah, again, geek culture. I mean, it's taken straight from fanboy conversations.
One of my favorite lines is when, after the Vision swings a hammer and he gives it back to Thor, he's like, that thing's kind of heavy. And, Thor's like, well, you need to so that you can really, swing it.
The balance is... I mean, that reminds me of... I think it was the first Avengers where he enters the apartment of somebody and goes to hang the hammer on the coat rack and it just takes the whole coat rack down. I think that was either the first Avengers or one of the Thor movies. I don't even.
It might be one of the Thor movies.
I think it was one of the Thor ones.
That was really funny, and that's one of the things that the Avengers especially, but I think a lot of these Marvel superhero movies, they've been doing really well. But in this one, I think they did it. Some of it was a little too much. Like the cheese factor was a little too high for me in this one. Mm-hmm. Some of the jokes that they did were really funny and really good and completely out of context. But it didn't. but that was a welcome thing, because they're right in the middle of combat, and like I think it's the Jeremy Renner character, Hawkeye, and like Quicksilver runs past him and takes Scarlet Witch away, and he's like, yeah, no, don't mind me, nobody would know or whatever, like, and he goes to like he aims his bow at him or whatever. I don't know. Just some things that they did were really funny and really out of context, but it still kept you in the movie, and they do that really well. But I think in this one some of that was a little too much, or the cheese factor was a little too high in this one, in some parts.
One more positive for me before I get out of my negatives. I like the Hawkeye at home stuff.
I was just about to bring that up.
I really, really, really enjoyed that. Superhero goes home. He's got a family. I mean, and it came off as just so authentic and real. It wasn't forced. It just was what it was. And, when a superhero goes home, hey, he's still got to do the dishes. He's still got to, mow the lawn, whatever.
He's gotta do renovations to the house over and over again.
It just came off as real and cool and fresh, and considering that setup, I'm a little disappointed by what they didn't do later in the film with him, which they should have done if they had any guts. Which would bring me to my negatives.
It's an obvious thing to do, though. I mean,
because I thought, because of how this movie really deals quite a bit with him, so I totally thought they were going to kill him off.
Yeah, I think it's a smart thing not to, though, because it's just too obvious. I mean, it's a whole. This cop is 2 days away from retirement, so he has to die.
I think the scene where he could have died would have worked if he did. Yeah. I think it would totally.
I think it could have, and I
because he would have been protecting someone in the process.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you would have had some guts, I think they took the safe way out.
I agree with Ben though, where it was really, really, really painstakingly obvious that was going to happen.
But just because it's obvious doesn't necessarily mean it's bad to do.
And really, if you're gonna write off this character, because I think it's safe to assume they're writing him off. But why not just have him go home to his family and he's done being that's fine enough. If you're gonna get rid of him, you don't need to kill him. That's one thing I don't like with these superhero movies is they kill off these major characters way too, frequently and just like, whatever, who cares? I mean, not that they do that in this movie with any superhero, but
yeah.
But it's just Quicksilver. Who cares about Quicksilver?
Stupid Quicksilver. All right, so that's pretty much all my positives. So. I don't know if you guys. Overall, there's probably other things I liked, but those are my major takeaways. So if you guys have anything you guys want to talk about that's positive.
I guess I could give it a shot. I don't have a whole lot written down.
Uh-oh.
So, but, I did like this movie, but, so don't take my lack of notes to mean anything negative. But, one thing I'm going to throw out there, I like the Scarlet Witch. I like that character being thrown in here. I think she could be an awesome Avenger. Even though her powers are extremely ill-defined, and sometimes she just has the power of pretty much extreme foreshadowing, I guess you can call it.
Extreme foreshadowing.
She's read the script.
And sometimes she's telekinetic, sometimes she can straight up read your mind.
Well, she can produce shields and stuff. And it's very odd. Yeah.
But what do you do with that character from the comics? Her whole thing in the comics is essentially probability control, which really
that's just weird.
Yeah, so she can really control the odds of a lot of things, and she can jinx people and stuff. Well, at least when I was reading, I know she's in recent decades she's probably changed, but
she kind of does that in this movie.
Yeah.
With Iron Man especially.
Yeah, she's essentially a reality warper in the comics. That's a simplified way of putting it. So really, how do you put that onto the big screen and not have to explain it overly with words? And, essentially she manipulates energy, I guess is what she does. But, if you leave that aside, I do like Elizabeth Olsen. She's a great actor. Even though some people have dinged her accent, which, but she does come from a fictional European country, so whatever.
Where they all talk like Dracula.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna snam her for that. I think she did a good job, and her character had a decent enough arc, even though I do gotta question why she didn't have a moment with Tony Stark at any point to resolve things.
Yeah.
Because that's her big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they seemed, pretty easily swayed to the dark side, and then very easily swayed back to the good side. And there was no real, wait, you're gonna kill everybody? Well, what did you think he was gonna do? Like, what did you sign up for this for?
Yeah.
That was kind of odd.
Yeah. There's that, obviously that entire party scene I thought was just awesome. Not just the hammer lifting, just everything in that party scene. I thought that was probably one of the best scenes in either of the Avengers movies we've seen.
Well, it brought a lot of characters in there.
Yeah, if it was up to me, that would almost be the entire movie.
It's just them hanging out.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That's the movie I want to see. I understand it's not what you guys out there wanted to see, but I could have watched 2 hours of that. And I know I stand alone on that probably, but that kind of stuff I do enjoy. Just great stuff. I think overall the acting of everybody in this movie has probably improved tenfold since we've last seen. Well, of course, Chris Evans, he's always been good. I mean, he's not going to top Winter Soldier as far as quality of acting, I don't think, because he was...
That was a phenomenal film.
Yeah. But, yeah, there's that, for some reason I'm blanking on other positives. Oh no, if that internet's going to destroy me.
That's fine, because, I mean...
There are other positives. Internet, don't kill me. Let me look at my notes.
I'm always so worried about the internet coming to get you. It's a weird phobia you have.
It's not paranoia if it's true.
Very paranoid.
Mysterious underground pond.
I mean, I don't know. I
might jump in later if...
There's a lot, there's a lot of positives in this movie. I mean, just like I said earlier, Marvel does really well with humor, and I think you need that in these kind of movies to keep it light. But they do, keep it serious when they need it to. Acting was really good. The story was good. I don't know, like.
Remember, we're talking positives now.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep track of some stuff sometimes because you're trying to tie it in with all these other movies that are going on at the same time. Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Avengers, Thor, Iron Man, and you're trying to tie all those things together. So obviously, it's good if you've seen those other movies. It's not a necessity per se, but if you have, you're gonna know a lot more about what's going on.
It will become a necessity to see pretty much all these movies if you're going in to see the third, and well, they're splitting up into 2 separate movies, part 1 and part 2. But the next, Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War movie, you're gonna need to probably see all of these because you're gonna need to know where all the Infinity Stones are. There's 6 total. We've seen 4 so far.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 3 officially, but we know where the 4th one is. And so, yeah, you're going to need to know where all those are, you're going to need all that set up and, all of that. So, it's going to become a necessity. But, yeah, it's a lot to keep track of, I will give you that.
These movies keep getting longer and longer, and they're adding more and more characters. I mean, you're going to have to do your research before you go into these movies from now on, I'm going to have to say. I mean, it's...
Because, like, when my wife and I got home, one of the things we did look up is, okay, so where are all the stones now at this point? What have we seen and where are they? Like, we looked all that up because we had to try to get it all straight.
Yeah, let me see if I can remember them all. Okay, so we've got the Tesseract. That's one.
That's one of them.
The Ether from Thor 2.
Yep,
which,
the red stone.
The weird swirly thing.
The purple one in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, the Mind Stone is in Loki's staff.
That which is now with the Vision.
Yeah, which is now in Vision's head.
Yes.
Which brings up a whole new plot hole. Why would Thanos give away one of the Infinity Stones to Loki like that? But,
yeah.
If he's been looking for him all this time...
Those are the 4 we know about. There's 2 more to go. One of which, and in our next episode we may talk about this, but one of which is almost guaranteed going to show up in the Doctor Strange film.
Oh, you've got to put it in there.
Yeah, it's a natural fit. So... and then maybe the other one will be Captain America Civil War. I don't know how they'll fit that in with the whole Civil War storyline as well. But
maybe we'll power Iron Man's next suit or something, and that's when the war is over.
Yeah, that'll be weird.
Are they gonna keep this storyline in the comics?
So if that's all the positives we have, let's move into some of the negatives here. Okay, these are not necessarily in any order. These are just what I wrote down, my impressions. The action scenes are negative for me. And let me, not necessarily the action scenes themselves, but how they were shot.
Yeah.
Is because in the first film, the camera pulled back enough where I could see everything clearly. And I love when movies do that. Just let me see the action.
Yeah.
This movie got way too fast with the editing. You got the shaky cam and it's way too close. And I hate that style of action editing. So I don't know why Joss Whedon decided to do a 180 on how he filmed action scenes from the last movie to this one. But to me, it was a turn for the worse. So that was one negative I saw. I don't think there's much more I could say on that. Number two, I wasn't a big fan of the Black Widow Hulk romance that came out of nowhere.
Okay, good thing you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I felt like not only did it come out of nowhere, but I felt like it was a little forced. I felt like it was rushed, and I felt like it was just something they put in there so they had something for Mark Ruffalo to do in this movie.
It reeked of studio mandate to me. It seems like something Marvel said, no, you're doing this to Joss Whedon. Because we know, Joss Whedon said in interviews, that Marvel Studios did strongly suggest some changes to the movie.
Yeah.
So, including that weird cave scene with Thor and the weird water.
Yeah, that was a weird one too.
Yeah, that was a Marvel Studios edition.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I so that one, that part just didn't jive well with me. The beginning was a negative for me. I didn't like how it just all of a sudden just boom, all of a sudden the Avengers are together and they're going after the staff, and it's like there's no setup to how they came back together, because in the last film and even in the other solo films leading up to this, they were still apart. Like they weren't, and all of a sudden boom, they're together. And at first when this movie started, I thought we were kind of like in a future scene, you know, and then they're gonna flash back to like, you know, 2 months earlier.
Yeah.
Like that's what I thought, but unfortunately that was not the case. And
it give it a Baron Strucker like almost immediately, which he's one of Captain America's biggest adversaries in the comics.
Yeah, and
was.
And so it seems weird to me that not only are the Avengers together, but they're teaming up for this, which doesn't seem like a huge major operation, world-threatening thing that needs all of them together. It seemed odd to me, and I'm hoping, because again I read that too, that there's like an hour on the cutting room floor, that there will be in there somewhere a good 10 minutes or so, just, you know, to set that up. You know, so that I don't feel like I've just been dropped into the middle of a war zone and now I've got to figure everything out on the fly. So yeah, didn't dig that. And then overall, and again, not ripping on this movie, but when I thought about it, I sat back and I'm like, this feels like kind of like a repeat of the first film, sort of, the plot. Because you've got a villain who creates a device to destroy the Earth, and he has an army that he also has at his disposal, and the Avengers need to destroy the said device in order to stop the man and save the bad guy and save the world. Like,
it's got the basic building blocks.
It's the same structure. I mean, which is a little weird. Again, not ripping on it, just something that wasn't necessarily exactly.
In the middle, they're torn apart, you know, and they're at odds with one another, and
yeah. I mean, it's like you're almost walking in the same footsteps as the last film. Which, again, it does it well. It disguises it enough to the point where I actually had to come, and I didn't realize it until after I got home and I thought about it. But, you know, it's still there. And again, that's more of a nitpick, I admit. So, and then I mentioned another negative to me, Hawkman being safe. And the movie didn't have enough guts to kill him off. They went with the easy disposable Quicksilver character who is brand new to this movie at the beginning. Which had no emotional impact to me. To me, if you're going to have a character death, I need some emotional punch to it, of a hero or anything. And so to me, it was just wasteful. I was like, okay, he's dead. I don't care. Now Scarlet Witch cares, but I don't care.
And I think maybe that's the point for her to care, but yeah.
But I need to care too.
Yeah.
You know, as an audience member, I would have cared more about Hawkeye. I would have gotten a little bit more emotional about. I mean, probably a lot more emotional about Hawkeye, because all of a sudden I see he has family, he has kids, he has more on the line. He's more of a human being to me.
Yeah.
So that's my negative from that. And again, I wasn't paying attention to a lot of the media hype, but apparently Joss Whedon had let it out of the bag that Hawkeye was safe even before this movie hit theaters, that he was going to be in a future, like, you know, Avengers movie or Marvel film down the road anyway. So people already kind of knew he's surviving this film one way or the other. I didn't know that going in, so to me this came off as a disappointment and a negative. But regardless, like I said, my score was like a 7.5 on this film, so not a bad thing. But those are just the things that didn't care too much in this movie for.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with a lot of those things. I hate the shaky cam. I just think that's annoying and lazy. It's there's a few movies that just drive me nuts like that. I can't even remember them off the top of my head, but it's just lazy. You just set up a scene and say go, and then just shake the camera.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just lazy. It's
Zoom
like,
in a little too close and shake.
yeah, you could do anything. Well, what does this movie need? Shaky cam. That'll keep people in the seats. But
no, we don't have to actually do choreography.
yeah, nobody has to actually know martial arts for this movie.
Yeah.
You just need to shake the camera.
And just wave your arms in front of the screen, and it looks like you're punching each other.
And they made steady cams for a purpose. People use them.
Yes.
But and it is a lot of the same. It's a lot of the same from the first Avengers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No.
But it's a lot of the same done not quite as well. And partially that's the fact because we've already seen it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, how many times, how emotional is the story going to be if we've already seen it occur?
Yes.
The plot is really, really similar. And like I was kind of hitting on earlier, some of the cheese factor is like shot up a little bit higher than it should be, I think. And the love story is just, it's just dumb. Like, as far as I can remember, there was nothing in the first Avengers that alluded to anything like that.
No, not even a hint.
You know, the funny thing is, after watching the first Avengers movie a couple of times after, I looked at him like, the studio is so going to mandate that there's going to be a Black Widow Hulk romance, because I just see it in the movie. Okay, so she's the one who gets him. She's clearly afraid of him. There's this whole thing about how they'll never work together, these two, because she's so terrified of him. That's got future romance written all over it because it's ironic.
No, to me, if anything, after watching Winter Soldier, I would have thought if they were going to go anywhere, they would have Captain America.
Yeah.
But they made it clear in Winter Soldier that they would never, because they're essentially brother and sister.
Well, I know, but I mean, if you were going to go anywhere with it, and they could renege on that, a little bit, but.
It's super. It seems really, really forced.
It does.
It literally comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's no setup to it. But I mean, we're supposed to believe that there has been kind of a setup to it,
and that's the weird thing.
Over time.
Okay, this whole thing is weird. Now maybe I'm the only one who feels this way, but it's so ambiguous the way they talk to each other, like in riddle. About it?
Yeah, it seems like they've already been going out or something.
And it seems that way, right?
Bizarre.
Because they're sitting there and I'm like, so have they been going out and then they broke up? Because that's kind of where the dialogue is going. And then all of a sudden, you have Captain America walk up to Bruce Banner and say, the leading authority on a guy who's waited too long, like... And so that implies that they haven't had a previous relationship. And I'm like, what is going on?
And whenever Bruce Banner talks to Black Widow, he turns into just an absolute moron. like a high schooler or something. Junior high kid. Which I guess kind of makes sense. And
they talk to each other in weird riddles.
It's very bizarre.
It's strange.
And then when they realize that they like each other, like some of the scenes, there's no chemistry. Between those two actors, really at all.
No.
And like when she says like, "Oh, I adore you," I mean that's just a weird, lame line.
It is. Yeah.
It was just Well, that was very off.
Are you taking a line out of the 1950s romance movie or something like that? I mean, it's just, it seems
really
so
weird.
strange.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
I'm glad I'm not the only one, thank God.
No,
Because my wife rides me on that. She
No.
is actually a fan of that love life.
that was the biggest thing in this movie that drove me up a wall. It's like,
Good.
and that's why I was trying to remember back to previous movies if this was something that was being set up.
No, you're not crazy. It was not
Because
set up.
it's just completely out of left field. It makes no sense.
So if you're done with your positives, then
Yeah.
or negatives,
Yeah.
whatever we're doing.
I was really.
I mean, jeez.
If that's me being positive, then I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely loved that storyline there, right?
Black Widow, right? You loved her.
Black Widow, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your...
There are lots of things that are just. I have so many questions about this movie, but. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I know one of them we were trying to talk about.
Yeah,
we talked about it a little earlier.
Since we're already talking about the Hulk, let me just throw one out there. Was I the only one who got the impression after the last Avengers that essentially Bruce Banner could control when he becomes a Hulk and not...
Kind of.
Because that's what is implied. But in this one, he needs a lullaby to no longer be hulked out. And was I the only one who was kind of thrown off by that?
Okay, so the Hulk thing has always been the weak part of the Avengers to me because
He's
even
jettisoned now, so yeah.
Yeah, well, because he, in the first film, they never really even give a real reason on how he becomes the Hulk or not. I mean, that stupid line of, I'm always angry. Like, that's my secret to being the Hulk.
I took that as he can control it.
Well, but it's just weird. Like, and obviously that's not what it meant, because in the second film he can't, apparently, because like you said, he needs a lullaby. And
Yeah,
like, I'm like, oh.
Well, and then even when he is hulked out, like, are we really supposed to believe that? Like, how? I just don't understand how he can be controlled, or not controlled, but how does he know right from wrong and who to punch and who not to punch? And
How much of his mind is still there? Because that kind of comes and goes, yeah.
like, they're still super afraid of him sometimes, but in other times he's right along with them.
And we know he can fly a plane allegedly in Hulk form. So, I
his
mean,
big fingers are.
yeah. And part of me wonders if they're trying to set up a Planet Hulk film out of this thing. That's why they haven't gone on his own, and he might not ever become Bruce Banner again. He might stay in Hulk form, and they might be trying to burden him up because of that.
There hasn't been a standalone Hulk movie with Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, and
So.
Oh, that'd be awesome, because then we could get a whole movie with the romance angle between him and Black Widow.
if it's Planet Hulk, there'd be no humans.
But
So
I'm sure there'd be a female Hulk thrown in there somewhere.
No, they jettisoned Black Widow into the movie somehow. She'd come in on a freaking, like, rocket ship.
But, yeah, that's a different story.
I
know
tracked
that
you
one.
down, honey.
I adore you.
I still adore you.
And with that being said, I think I've said all I really have to say about
We
the Hulk.
all do not like the romantic
Yeah.
intertwining of
Intertwingling?
those- yes, the twingling.
Yeah, let me see, before I jump to the end or anything, I want to...
I hated everything.
Skip to the end.
Okay, I've got to ask. What was with Thor and the magic pond?
I didn't understand a lot of stuff in this movie. to be
They should
completely
change
honest
the
with
name
you.
of the next Thor movie to Thor and the Magic
Thor
Pond.
and the Magic Cave Pond.
I know
No, I don't...
they threw out dialogue trying to explain it, but I did not
I-
catch any of what he meant by it.
I don't...
Well, and then
I don't understand why this was even needed.
Marvel Studios, I guess they want to set up the next Thor movie, so...
oh, maybe
But
it makes him see a vision or something. Correct? I don't.
yeah, well, that was the point of it, but I don't know how
Yeah.
or why this was the only way to do it. Or I'm so confused by that scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, so I didn't miss a line of dialogue earlier or anything
No,
about...
he's just he just seems to think that for some reason he can go back into the dream and see something that he didn't see before. Now again, how he even gets that impression, I'm not sure.
I mean,
But he does.
maybe this is something from Thor: The Dark World, but I only saw the movie once in theaters, so maybe there's something in there that connects this magic pond.
I only saw it once in theaters too because I've been looking at the Blu-ray and it refuses to go down in price, and I refuse to pay more than $15 for a Blu-ray.
But weren't you just, thrilled by the wonderful work of the villain and his great scheme in that movie?
Actually, I thought Thor the Dark... Again, not to get too much into it, but I enjoyed Thor the Dark World. Also because I just enjoy Loki so much.
The biggest problem with all these Marvel Studios movies is they have terrible villains, except for the Avengers. What's up with that? But, yeah, so the magic pond of weird vision thing, okay.
I have no answers for you.
Okay, so
maybe in the longer cut again, we could get more answers to that. It makes more sense.
Well, I just don't get how when he comes back from the pond and says he's had a vision, how him slamming his hammer on the
weird
computer coffin thing that Vision was being.
Yeah, the weird torpedo thing that.
How does that all of a sudden make Vision come out? Like, I don't understand. Like, he slams his hammer down on the thing and overloads the system.
Yeah, he slams his...
Vision's born.
He slams his hammer down on the torpedo tube that, Spock was buried in. And all of a sudden Vision comes out, and he's good to go.
The
I don't
only thing
understand
I can think of is that Quicksilver pulled the power from that pod. So
the power pod.
The only thing I can think of is maybe he's using his electricity to power it and just supercharge it. And
well, that's the impression, but I don't understand how that fixes everything.
Yeah, like
it's magic lightning.
Well, because
it's magic. We don't need to explain it, okay?
when Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch come in to stop that from happening, because they believe that
the Vision
Iron Man is gonna, like, this is not gonna be good. Whatever comes out of this is just gonna be another Ultron or something like that. Like, I don't know if that's actually the case, and then Thor comes in and uses his hammer and somehow makes him good, or if the process would have just continued, it still would have been Vision. It just made no sense to me.
And again, I guess if I want to have another negative about this, I don't know if you guys would agree, I almost think this would have worked better, screw the whole magic pond thing and all of that. Let Tony Stark do what he needs to do and see if he's going to make the same mistake twice. It adds more tension. Vision could come out of there, but there's always the question of, is he really who he says he is? Well, because does Tony Stark make the same mistake twice?
Because this one's different because Jarvis is actually in there, whereas before he wasn't. But it was Ultron.
But again, you could have more ambiguity if you would have just let Tony Stark do his own thing.
Well, you're forgetting they're trying to set up Civil War with this scene.
I know.
That they're clearly trying to show who's on whose side of the Civil War. It's no mistake that Captain America is one leading the whole I'm gonna charge up Vision, and Tony's the one on the side of, no, we need the Vision to win. It's no mistake. They're setting up the people who are on each side. They're gonna be on those same sides during Civil War, and Thor's gonna be the one who's gonna be the swing vote. You watch.
Yeah,
and that's one of my complaints of this movie is this movie does seem to be setting up future movies more than it does seem to be serving its own plot. Let's set up Thor Ragnarok. Let's set up the Infinity War. Let's set up Civil War. Let's set up all this stuff. Can you just devote some time to your plot?
And I
agree with that.
And I think maybe that's why the first movie plays better, because it didn't feel like it was trying to bridge to anything else. It just was its own thing.
It was its own bridge from these
everything.
Other movies.
It's a culmination of everything that happened before it, and that's just what it was. And it's like, okay, we're good here, and now we're gonna just kind of catch our breath and set up for the next thing. Instead of letting Age of Ultron be that, it's turned into, now it's gonna be a bridge for the bridge. Kind of thing. And maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much.
Well, and that definitely takes away from the story. But I think that's kind of what sequels are. It's kind of what sequels are supposed to be, which sucks, which is why I hate trilogies per se. When they started really getting on this kick 10 years ago when they just couldn't just make one movie anymore. They had to make 3. Like, it just seemed like everything had to be 3 movies.
Yeah.
And now we're splitting the last movie into 2 parts.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's a money grab, and I mean, if you can get people's butts in the seats to see an Avengers movie, they're gonna go see it, and you're gonna make them. Oh, what? Before it was even released in the U.S., it had already made $200 million, and it's gonna make $1 billion. I don't even know what it's made by now. It's opening weekend. I would assume over 500 million.
It's breaking records.
Yeah, and it will.
So, you know.
And it's just, I don't know, but yeah, it's a movie that almost, except for some specific things that happened during it, it almost didn't even really need to happen. It was an entertaining movie though, but it did, and I do believe that that's kind of what took away from it, was the fact that it was kind of just a setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a good story, it's an entertaining story, but it's just kind of a setup.
Yeah.
Okay, and my next question here. Okay, what was Ultron's whole plan with lifting that city up to drop it? How was that going to destroy the entire planet?
Well,
I mean, call me an idiot. I don't know. I don't know the physics of that.
He was kind of getting back to where, an asteroid destroyed the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It was large enough, and it covered an area enough.
Was the size of Texas, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm guessing that's... He just wanted to kill as many people as he could, and the higher it got, the further it would fall. And
that was his plan. Just rip up a huge chunk of land.
That's what I took from it.
Yeah, couldn't have gone to the Sahara and where no one would have noticed, and...
That's not his style.
And it doesn't put people in danger for the Avengers to rescue. This is more dramatic. He's in the middle of a city.
It's a movie.
Yeah, but for such an intelligent AI, you think he would have,
But at the same time, too, then that leads to another point that, because now you have citizens in peril. But
how are they going to get up there? No one can get up there.
There's no one up there. Well, Nick Fury, he just pulls...
He just pulls up in his spare helicarrier.
Spare helicarrier. He had that in his back pocket, apparently. Even though it was clearly established that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been dismantled and destroyed.
Yeah. Doesn't he just his only line is, "Well, I've got some secrets" or something, and that's how he writes off that he has a helicarrier.
Magic!
Where do you hide
I'm Sam Jackson. That's all he needs to say is he's Sam Jackson.
This is amazing. And not only is it just the helicarrier, but it's fully crewed. Like, this thing, it's not even skeleton crew. This thing, I don't even know where he got these people. It's amazing.
Colby Smulders is there, and that's all we really know. Yeah.
What's going on? Like,
is that guy paying Gallagher's back there?
Yeah, that'd be great if they had that. But I can't. That scene does blow my mind, because where do you hide such a thing?
Yeah.
Like, where do you store this and hide it? Like, you've basically, if we're going by the movie's logic, you've stolen government property. Like, this isn't yours. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a division of the United States government in this universe. Therefore, you have stolen government property, a gigantic piece.
You can't hide that thing. Even if you cloak it, how are you going to find it?
Yeah. So, there's so many questions with this, and I don't think this is nitpicking. I think this is a legitimate question in this movie.
It's a Deus Ex Machina. It's clearly similar to someone saying, okay, well, how are we going to get him off the city? We are established, like, miles up in the air. How are we going to get him down? If only there was a helicarrier. Well, but S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer around. Where are they going to get a helicarrier? Well, Sam Jackson probably just has one.
Nick Fury's probably got one.
Yeah, why not? Okay.
Up his sleeve.
Okay, good. Let's just do that. They won't care.
Write it in.
Yeah, that might be quite possibly the worst moment in this movie, even more so than the Black Widow Hulk romance thing, because the Black Widow Hulk thing may be rushing out of nowhere, but fine, movies do that. Mm-hmm. This is a plot hole. Like this, where in the established narrative, which they took time going over, to establish all of these things, so it's not nitpicking to go over this.
They spent an entire movie telling us that the helicarriers are not going to be around anymore.
Yes.
You know, the Winter Soldiers clearly established S.H.I.E.L.D.'s no longer around, the helicarriers are no longer around.
Absolutely.
They actually nuked all the friggin' helicarriers at the end of that movie, so they just had an extra?
Apparently.
Colby Smulders and Nick Fury.
And considering that you probably couldn't fly that thing by yourself, Nick Fury had to steal it with a bunch of other people. And it had to be secret enough so that it wouldn't get picked up, by anyone. Is no one doing inventory of these gigantic helicarriers and saying, hey, wait a minute, we're missing one. Wonder where that went. Well, it couldn't be, that Nick Fury guy, although I guess apparently he's dead to the world or something.
Yeah, I forgot they faked his death.
They did fake his death. So, but still, even in that case, it's a little ridiculous. You think that in the United States government, if you had that massive a piece of military hardware missing, you'd be code red, man.
You don't misplace a helicarrier.
Do terrorists have this thing now? Wouldn't you be freaking out if you're the government? You would think you would be, because you don't know who has it, technically.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyway, sorry, but
we're done with that.
The more I think about it, the dumber it gets. But anyway.
Yeah, and okay, what's with these new Avengers thing? Are they really replacing Thor and Iron Man and all them with Falcon, War Machine, and the like? I mean, I personally kind of don't want there to be all these, to have a new Avengers team where the only ones I like are Captain America and, Scarlet Witch, not Scarlet Witch, but Scarlet Witch, but Black Widow. I mean, it's great there's more than one woman on the team now.
I don't think they're trying to replace everyone. I do think that they're probably trying to mix in some new blood, though.
They clearly wrote outs for most, if not all, of the characters. I mean, they say when Thor goes, I'm really gonna miss that guy, and Tony Stark says, well, I'm done now. Those suits are gonna be collecting dust. So they are writing outs for these characters clearly. So is it because what if they don't sign a contract?
Could be. But it could. I mean, it might also be they want to freshen it up with new blood and give other people a shot.
They clearly wrote out the Hulk and Hawkeye, so obviously they're going to be replacing at least a couple of the Avengers, you'd think. Unless the Hulk's going to be like the villain of a future movie, which I would not mind because, the Hulk can't take the entire Avengers to take down.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know.
Personally, I don't want to see Falcon and War Machine in the Avengers really that much. They're not that interesting.
Yeah.
But considering how the Civil War comic ends, there is a reason to put at least one or two of them in there, isn't there? Yeah. But that's for a different discussion.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I think we said all we need to say on Avengers Age of Ultron.
I'm not going to spoil Civil War.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's a good place to end it. We didn't get to talk really much about the Boba Fett, Indiana Jones stuff, but we could do that next time. And we also, next episode, we'll be talking about the year 2016. We're going to look ahead, go over the movie schedule of anything major that's coming out in 2016, at least as of right now. It's in the 2016 schedule. Some of this stuff's probably going to get moved on over to 2017, no doubt, but at this moment, we're going to kind of go over that calendar and just talk about some of the stuff we're looking forward to, some of the stuff we're not. And we will see you next time on the Film Authority.
And I just don't get it.
You suck, Marvel!
Damn it, butt, smell, fart, poop.
Well, that's an outtake now.
That should be the intro.
I want Iron Man to shave my legs. That's me in the corner.